For those positions which are uncontested, we'll have a brief introduction and question and answer period. For those positions which are contested, we'll have a more extensive question and answer period, and we'll alternate the order of who answers the questions. We will continue to ask questions for as long as time allows. We are limited in time, so we would appreciate it if candidates would be brief, but they do have the opportunity to use their full time as they so wish. Responses of the candidates will be limited to 2 minutes, 1.5 minutes for the town council session. Should you finish prior to the allotted time, that is acceptable. Our timekeeper this evening is John Stiliano, the Vice President of the Chamber of Commerce, who will indicate to the candidates when he or she has 30 seconds left, 15 seconds left, and when the time to answer is over by use of the signs. Remember, this is a forum sponsored by the Ossining Chamber of Commerce and a positive opportunity for the business community and Ossining community at large to hear your views and vision about business in Ossining in the upcoming years. We're interested in hearing your ideas about the future of Ossining and of the business in Ossining. This is not a debate, so please speak of the positives that you bring to the office and avoid negatives of your opponents. Be specific in your responses. For example, if you make a statement regarding cutting taxes, well, tell us specifically how you plan to do that. And lastly, there will be no audience question and answer period, nor will there be any participation from the audience during the course of the forum. In our first segment, we'd like to introduce to you the judicial candidates of the community. I thought that we were going to have 4 candidates in attendance, Montgomery Delaney on the Republican line, and Gretchen Walsh on the Democratic line for the Supreme Court judge. Are they here? Okay. Then on our more local level, we'd like to introduce to you Michael Tawil and Mark Reisman. They're running on the Democratic Party line for the Town of Ossining Justice Court. Michael and Mark, would you please step up? Yes, just step right over here.
Okay, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Judge Michael Tawil.
Michael, before you start, in 2 minutes, just please introduce yourself to the community and educate the voting public on the qualities and qualifications that will make you the best candidate in the office.
Well, I am running unopposed. Mark and I are both on the Democratic line for the 2 open seats. As you know, I'm Judge Michael Tawil. I'm a current sitting Ossining Town Judge, one of the 3 judges that are on the bench. And for the past 4 years, I've been in that role. And what the town court does, I might as well explain it kind of briefly, because a lot of people don't know what we do. We adjudicate a full jurisdiction over all misdemeanor crimes committed in the town of Ossining. We also handle felony crimes up to what's called a felony hearing. We adjudicate building code violations, small claims, landlord-tenant matters, parking and traffic. We've been doing that for the past 4 years. We took this court from what was a village court and a town court. We merged courts, and we were able to run the court efficiently the last 4 years. We reduced a large backlog of violations that had to be cleared, and we're pretty proud of the job we've done running the court in a pretty efficient and fair fashion. We like to make sure that everyone in our court is treated with respect and allowed to litigate their case, and we try and adjudicate the cases fairly according to the law. We've been doing it for the last 4 years, and together with Mr. Reisman, who I expect will also be a judge come January, we hope to continue doing it. And that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Reisman.
Thank you. Good evening. I am Mark Reisman. I am also running for town justice here in Ossining. I have been practicing law for many years, let's put it that way. You get to a certain age where you don't want to say how many, but it's a long time, over 25. I am presently, in addition to having a private practice in Hawthorne, New York, I am the deputy town attorney in Ossining. I have served in that position for the past 5.5 years, and part of it part of my job. A good part of it is having the honor to practice in front of Judge DeWiel and also the other two justices in the court, Judge Kova and Judge Freed. My job presently in court is as the town prosecutor, so I am in charge of either negotiating or trying any traffic court matters, any municipal code violations brought to town, and related types of charges. As Judge DeWiel indicated a second ago, the courts were merged about 3.5 years ago, and I was, about 3 years ago I should say, and I was instrumental or participated, shall we say, in merging the business of the village and the town courts and making sure that things run smoothly. We had a backlog coming in. The backlog is non-existent at this time. We dispose of approximately somewhere in the range of 50 to 100 traffic matters per week, and then there's everything else. I have experience as both a criminal defense lawyer, and I've also done work on the prosecution side of cases, and some of them, were significant. In addition, I have a lot of experience practicing business law. I have taken cases on an assigned counsel basis in criminal court and also in various family courts. So I feel that I have a broad range of experience which will be of great assistance as I hopefully take the bench in the fall. Thank you.
Great. Both unopposed.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll have Manuel Quesada and Quantel Basemore. Manny and Quantel are running unopposed for the Ossining Board of Trustees. Please have a seat. And Manny, why don't we start with you? Please tell us about yourself. What credentials do you bring to the office you seek? And please include your education and career achievements as well as specific skills that will enable you to excel in this position.
Thank you, John. Thank you. I want to say thanks to everyone that actually came in for this occasion.
Speak into the mic, please.
Sorry. I want to thank everyone that actually came in tonight for this forum. Appreciate that. My name is Manuel Quesada. I've been a wrestling of Ossining for about 22 years plus. I've been sitting as a sitting trustee now for, it's my second term, so it's about 3 years and a half, a little more than 3 years and a half. I think I have the qualifications that to be sitting where I am at this point going forward. I have an architectural background. I am a homeowner here in the village of Austin, so I know a lot in that regard. And I also have a family here that it's been growing. I have a baby, 22 months, almost 20 months. Also, we're going to be here for a very long time. Not only that, but my wife moved from upstate New York to Ossining, more because of me, and now she loves it. She's very active in the community as well. So we have a lot to invest in this community that we call Ossining. So and that's just a few of the qualifications that I can see going forward.
Thank you. Mr. Basemore, please tell us about yourself and what credentials you bring to the office that you seek.
Good evening. My name is Quantel Basemore. I am a lifelong resident of Ossining. I'm third generation here in Ossining, New York. I'm also a chamber member. Graduated Ossining High School in 2007. Went on to Howard University for business management, and I also have an associate's degree from Westchester Community College. Currently employed by Interfaith Council for Action, which is a not-for-profit housing association here in Austin. One thing that I can say is that, particularly for the business community, me personally, I've always tried to encourage the business owners that I know to be chamber members, because I believe when we start to have a conversation about revitalization, that it's important for all business owners to be a part of that conversation. The best way to do that is to be a chamber member.
Thank you. Mr. Bazemore, what do you believe are the most important issues facing the village over the next 2 years, and how would you plan to address them?
Some of the issues, right now I know the board is currently looking at ways to address overcrowded housing, which is a big issue. One of the things that I would like to see done, I know it was introduced last year, but I think it should be revisited, is the landlord registry. The landlord registry requires all landlords to register their homes for a certificate of occupancy. And that's just one way for the village to keep up with who is living here in the village. And I know that it was highly contested last year, but I think that I think Portchester, that was one of the viable ways that they were able to address some of those issues, and I would like to see that be revisited.
Great. Thank you. And Mr. Caseta, what do you believe are the most pressing issues facing the village over the next few years, and how do you plan to address them?
Some of the things that we actually working on the village for right now is not just overcrowded.
Speaking to the mic?
Thank you. Is that better?
Yes.
All right, real close. A couple of the issues that the village board has been working towards this past year and the years before this is how do we how do we make our departments better in a way, more friendly use. One of the things that was mentioned a couple of weeks back, it was the reconfiguration of the building and planning department, which is a very important key in what the village does in any regards, either through building departments, to interfacing with the communities as a homeowner. So we are looking into improve those two departments and see how can we manage a lot of the stuff that is that a lot of the community has a concern in regards to that. That's just one of the phases. The other one is how do we go back to rehab our downtown? We started that, I want to say, 3.5 years ago when I was part of a different board, so to speak, different village board, but a different entity in a way. We started working towards that, and we started working a little bit with the chamber, and I think that's a phase that we are working towards now. Going forward, we have a lot of potentials, a lot of different ideas of where can we get grant money, so we can work either with private organizations or with organizations here within the village of Boston. So I think this is a very good potential that the end of the year and next year, we're going to see a lot of that going on here in the village of Boston. So.
Great. Thank you very much. And next up, we would like to present to you Luke Carbonero, who is running on the Republican, Conservative, and Reform Party lines for the position of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin, as well as Rita Levin, who is running on the Democratic and Working Party family lines. Please step up. Luke, why don't we start with you? Please tell us about yourself. What credentials do you bring to the office that you seek? And please include your educational and career achievements as well as specific skills that will enable you to excel in your position.
I'd be happy to. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you to the Chamber for hosting this event. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having my opponent, Trustee Levin, as well. A little bit about myself. I'm an Austin High School graduate. I'm an Oswego State graduate with a degree in education as well as history. I'm currently enrolled as a graduate student at American Military University, pursuing 2 master's degrees in emergency management and homeland security, where I currently have a 4.0. In terms of working with the community already, I've been a long time Austin resident. I volunteered not only with the Austin Fire Department, where I'm a first lieutenant for Independent Hose Company. I've also volunteered countless Decembers with Baker Cheer Collier Christmas Cheer Fund, delivering baskets of food, for those in need throughout the community. I feel I have a certain background that is lacking currently here in the village. I come from a very diverse family, and there are Protestants, Catholics, and Jews in my family, Italians, Puerto Ricans, as well as Irish and German, Republicans and Democrats in my own family. I know I have the ability, the skill set, and the vision for Ossining moving forward. As I've proven throughout my life working and living here in such a rich and diverse community, I know I can bring these qualifications to the village board. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Levin, please tell us about yourself and what credentials do you bring to the office you seek. Additionally, include your education and career achievements as well as specific skills that will enable you to excel in your position.
Thank you, and I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. My name is Rika Levin, and I just want to tell you a little bit about myself and the qualifications, and thank you to the Chamber for having us all here tonight. To start with, I think that the key elements that make me qualified for the position and that for the trustee is that I have an MBA from NYU, which gave me a beginning and a foundation for the business and development that I have used in my corporate experiences. Sorry. So for over 2 decades, one of my key attributes is that I've been managing small and large budgets in both Fortune 50 companies, not-for-profits, community organizations. I currently work in one of the largest community organizations in Westchester County. What it does for me is that I belong actually to a couple of chambers through that job, which allows me to really bring in the talents and the knowledge from working across different towns in Westchester County, so I can bring that to the job. Dealing with budgets on a daily basis has been something I've been doing right from when I got my MBA to working at Chase, to working at MetLife and other Fortune 50 companies. I then spent over a decade doing work for non-for-profits. I have both the for-profit experience, the non-for-profit experience, and I manage budgets from a couple of $100,000 to $42 million. What that does for a person running for a trustee is a few things. Number one, you learn to deal with layers of people. You learn to work collaboratively across many organizations. I work with municipalities, the city of New York, Brooklyn, the Bronx. When you commute into the city, the entire community development that was done in Harlem was something that I worked with in a commercial real estate business for Chase at the time. I also built and ran an award-winning diversity program for Chase, and then went on to MetLife, where I was a senior executive. I missed the time. I'll have to do the rest later.
Thank you. Well, Ms. Levin, what do you believe are the most pressing issues facing the village over the next few years, and how would you address them?
I think there are a couple of issues. Number one, I think the position requires somebody who knows how to manage budgets, because one of the things that I've already learned as an appointed trustee is that managing budgets, understanding line items, understanding how business is conducted, understanding union relationships, contract negotiation, branding, marketing, all the things that I have spent the past couple of decades plus producing great results in is exactly the kind of stuff that makes for a very strong trustee. And that's one of the things that intrigues me about the job. I've dealt with unions across many parts of my career, managed branding and marketing, so I think those elements of the marketing branding of Ossining are key. I want to see us from a vision point of view. You know, we should be a destination, and the businesses in this village should be a destination area for people coming from all parts of Westchester and Manhattan. We're no different than where Cold Spring was a number of years ago, and their chamber took action, and the citizens took action, became a destination. They connected themselves to the rest of the Hudson Valley. We are sitting in the middle between Tarrytown with its amazing part in Hudson Valley. We're sitting north of us with Croton that has some fantastic stuff. And we should be connected and leveraging other municipalities. I think the village trustee position and my vision for it is to bring us on a higher level and the change, so to speak, as a destination with a number of projects that have started. Thanks. I'm looking over there and you're over there. So thanks for that. And lastly, I think that the issue of the housing, I'd like to see a very healthy environment where people are able to sell their houses when they're ready to move or retire or leave. I'd like to see a very healthy environment where new people can find a great place to live the way my husband and I did years ago.
Thank you very much. Mr. Carbonaro, what do you believe are the most pressing issues facing the village over the next few years, and how would you address them?
I believe in a triad that this village has to address. And some have already been brought forward both by my opponent and other board trustee candidates, which I'm quite frankly kind of happy about, is it means that we're already kind of on the same page, and that, you know, whether you're like me or my opponent, the same vision, the same bipartisan effort can be made to achieve these goals. What has been said several times now is about the unsafe housing here in Ossining. Both as a first responder and potential home buyer here in Ossining, I would love it to know everybody's taken care of within the village. It does not only pose a private health problem, but a public health problem with overcrowding housing. Right. One disease spreads from one aspect to the other very quickly inside cramped quarters. Additionally, businesses here in Ossining, I encourage everybody to check out my website, OssiningLoop.com, where after tonight, if I do not get enough time to answer tonight, I have a 5-point economic plan for the village of Ossining, focusing on businesses. In addition, I would love to see infrastructure in Ossining that does not just mean the potholes in the roads. That means having more parking, having better sidewalk quality with crosswalks, better signage to ensure everybody, both school children and adults, will be able to get around Ossining. The budget is also an important issue, and I forgot to mention this in my opening. I'm a former college teacher where I taught courses primarily in history and economics. I've also been vice president of an ambulance corps where I oversaw a 6-figure budget, as well when I was in my undergraduate studies at Oswego State University. I was in the student government there and helped oversaw a 7-figure budget.
Thank you. Mr. Carbonaro, what do you think about the village or downtown business climate? And if you believe it needs to be changed or improved, what would you do?
I was hoping I was going to get this question tonight about the downtown economic development. Part of my 5-point plan is utilizing Market Square. As of right now, a couple of parking lots and an open area. Where in my undergraduate up in Oswego, New York, which was a booming river town, a Great Lake town, loads of common stores up there. These stores will be able to encourage businesses to move to Ossining, to have interconnected with one another, making it easier and more accessible for the residents and non-residents to come in to shop in Ossining. And also, which was addressed by the board already, parking complex next to the recreation center. I would love to see a multi-story parking garage there. That would not only help residents there, it will help the business owners there to find parking for themselves and their employees, in addition to all the shoppers that would want to come to Ossining and that already do come to Ossining. I know I find it particularly troubling when you drive down Main Street and all the metered parking is taken up and you're forced to park blocks away.
Ms. Levin, what do you think about the village or downtown business climate? And if you believe it needs to be changed or improved, what would you do?
I think that the village is a fantastic place right now for business. I happen to like going on Saturday mornings to the farmers market. I think there's some great businesses there. And I think that, like many of the Hudson Valley towns, there's some challenges. So there are two things about the downtown that I'd like to speak about. Number one, we can always use more business. Every village can use more business. And I want to speak to the destination idea that I had before, which I think is doable, but more importantly, I happen to, by the way, agree with your parking. It's one of the things that I think is absolutely necessary. But I also represent those, the commuters. I'm one of the people on the current board and running that's been commuting for many, many years. The commuters, to me, are a missed opportunity. They come in early in the morning, they come home exhausted, and they leave. And one of the things we need to do is find ways to encourage about a third of our population who commutes on a regular basis to shop, to be able to buy local, make it easy for them, and put actual marketing programs in place to the commuters to shop. And I don't think we've worked hard enough at getting that group involved with our businesses. I also think that this is a great place for couples to live in. I think we're one of the towns that are affordable. We have rents, we have condos, we have houses, we have apartments. My parents are senior citizens. We moved them up here to the apartments at Parkview. They were reasonable and they were great. And I think we can work more on getting people to come in by working with other municipalities, and most importantly with my experience with large corporation. Regeneron is hiring about 1,000 people, mostly engineers a year, and we're not leveraging the way Peekskill is, for example, from speaking to the right corporate folks to get us on the list. So, recap, to really get corporations more involved with us, for the smaller businesses, to also focus on the commuters as buyers.
Great, thank you. Ms. Levin, please discuss the Sing Sing Museum project and how this fits in with your vision of the waterfront.
I love the Sing Sing project. I think it's fantastic. My husband and I lived in Scarborough Manor while we were looking for apartments and houses and where we're going to live when we decided to live in Ossining. So we had a great view over Sing Sing. I have a passion for it, but Sing Sing is considered one of the most progressive penal examples in the state of New York. It allows people to stay closer to their families and their attorneys, and it's a great study in progressive thinking about and social activity that goes on. They have the music program, they have a lot of stuff. I believe that that museum will be a great destination. From the research that I've done, it's estimated, depending on the study, for about 100,000 to about 200,000 people to come visit that museum. If done correctly, it allows you to get grants from various government agencies as well, and there's work that's been done on it, and it's come a long way. So I happen to think it's a great boon for Ossining in total, and for the downtown specifically. I'm a big fan of it. If you've ever been to California, Alcatraz, when it started, was not seen as a big thing, but it's now one of the biggest destination stops in the state of California. So I'm a big fan.
Thank you. Mr. Carbonaro, please discuss the Sing Sing Museum project and how this fits in with your vision of the waterfront.
Okay, thank you. Well, first, as both student officiant and a history teacher, I can definitely appreciate what is trying to be done, creating a museum, a target destination. There's a couple of things, though, that I have reservations about the Sing Sing Museum. First of all, unlike Alcatraz, Sing Sing prison is still an active maximum security prison where New York City sends their most horrible criminals. They send them up to us. Future home buyers here in Ossining, they look at the sex registry, and a lot of people are turned off by that when they see the numbers of sex offenders living within Ossining. Now, granted, they all live at the one address at Sing Sing Prison, but that should just tell you, what type of environment you might be getting yourself into. We only have to think about this past summer in upstate New York, where there was a prison escape with 2 hardened felons. Like I said before, though, I am a lover of history. There already is a museum for the prison at the rec center. I frequent it at least once a year to see if anything's been added. Will it bring $100,000 worth of revenue into the village? That's to be determined. I know when I was organizing extra credit for my classes, and even while I was a student here in Ossining, the thought never came up to go and visit the museum. Grant money would be nice, but I believe grant money would be better spent elsewhere.
Thank you. Mr. Carbonaro, Avalon has been completed. Harbor Square is under construction, and development is considered for the Elks Club, Printex, and other sites throughout the village. As a result, many people have concerns regarding overpopulation, leading to an overtaxed infrastructure and traffic congestion throughout the community. How would you address their concerns? What solutions might you suggest?
As I mentioned before, one of my triads that the village should be working on is infrastructure. And like I said before, this does not mean just simply filling the potholes. This means making our roads more accessible to handle a heavier traffic volume. As part of the pilot program that we saw the current village board implement at the two-way Spring Street, in anticipation for a heavier traffic volume in that area. As far as an overtaxed and overcrowded, as long as they're meeting village code and building codes for the housing, and as long as everything is by the book, I don't see a problem with an increase in population here in Ossining, as long as it's done responsibly and as long as it's done professionally. Part of the way that we can offset these costs is one of my other plans, part of my 5-point plan, and this might be more appealing for the local business owners here in the room. I proposed, it's tentative, granted, it's just a proposal, a tax break plan for the local business owners already in Ossining and those willing to come to Ossining. My plan would have successful small business and large businesses here in Ossining receive, whether it's a 50, 67, or excuse me, 33 or 20% cap, rated at different years, capped at either $20,000, $15,000, or $10,000, depending on which option they will choose. Part of this money will have to be earmarked for capital improvement in and around their stores in the community. So whether that be adding additional parking lots, so all these, an influx of residents can park at for the local shops, whether that be hiring these new residents, or whether that be simply giving them a better view of their store and beautifying it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Levin? Avalon has been completed, Harbor Square is under construction, and development is considered for the Elks Club, Printex, and other sites throughout the village. As a result, many people have concerns regarding the overpopulation, leading to an overtaxed infrastructure and traffic congestion throughout the community. How would you address their concerns, and what solutions might you suggest?
Well, first of all, I think all of things like tax breaks and some of the other things mentioned all cost money. Taxes is revenues, so you either believe in, tax breaks, which then you have to figure out where you're going to get the revenue from, or you believe in increasing costs. It's a little bit hard to focus on both at the same time from a P&L point of view. So for me, I think you have to focus on a plan that says that some of the roads need to be looked at as far as traffic patterns. I think that I do like to look at parking, because parking is an issue in all of these towns because there is limited space. There is the development that's downtown is planned correctly, so I happen to think that there is room for some of the growth and some of the management of looking at the growth correctly and managing and streamlining some of the expenses that are going to be necessary to fix some of the parking issues, and also to look at different roads and where we can expand them. I think that looking at businesses is all about branding a lot of our community and increasing the revenues for the businesses, whether it's what Terratile just did with their solar panels that puts $20-something thousand in their pockets every year, and looking at green technology to save businesses. But I think that's where a lot of the help can come for businesses, from trustees on the board.
Thank you. We've been talking about development in the downtown. And as we know, development has been contemplated for a number of years on the Market Square and Post Office parking lot sites. They haven't yet come to fruition, but it seems as if these are projects that are going to be in the works. Describe your vision of the development of these sites and what the Ossining downtown may look like in 10 years, and describe your views of the balance between development and natural and historic resources. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Levin, yes.
So I just need you to define the last part of that question.
Well, within the development structure, we're working with historic resources such as the Sing Sing Prison Museum. We have historic resources essentially on Main Street. We have a historic district in Main Street. How do all of these things combine in with the development of downtown as you see it? Where do you see the town in 10 years?
So I'll start from the beginning. I think that for me, it's what makes people want to live in river towns. It's the beauty of these towns versus so many other choices of where one lives, which is the history combined with advancing the storefronts and the businesses that are on Main Street and on all of the other streets in downtown, and improving, creating events and creating a brand around our downtown so that more and more people come here and they go home at night. Right? So part of it is to increase the businesses where you come and eat. Look, I just saw the article on pasta, which is here in Ossining, being written in the New York Times. So for the first time, they have reservations through November because the New York Times wrote about them. We've got to get ourselves more in light of the great stuff that we have, the reason we all love living here, the reason we all chose to live here. Some of us are born here, some of us chose to live here, and we've stayed here because it's a great place to live. It's a great commute, it's a great place to go to the Berkshire, it's a great place to go to Westchester. We want people to come here, we want them to shop here, we want them to eat here, and we want them to either go back to their home in Ossining or go back somewhere else so that this becomes the place you come to for the events that you want. In the summertime on the waterfront, restaurants in the winter and throughout. So I'm looking for ways to make this the place that people want to come, and I want to connect with the rest of the area. The history is a must. You can't take the history away. That takes away the whole river town. If you don't have the history, you don't really have what some of the successful river towns have. It's what differentiates us in the marketplace, and it's fantastic. And it's what makes people happy to live here. The boat clubs, the waterfront, the parks, this is what differentiates us from all the other towns. 10 years from now, listen, I want to be in every destination book so people from Manhattan come here, throw down their great money, think that Wobbles is cute, think that all these places are great to go, and go home and leave the money with the vendors that work here.
Thank you. Mr. Carbonero, development has been contemplated for quite some time for the Market Square and Post Office parking sites, and we touched on this a little bit earlier. Describe your vision of the development of these sites and what the Ossining downtown may look like in 10 years, and describe your views of the balance between development and natural and historic resources.
Sure, I can definitely do that. There is one thing, if you currently look at Ossining versus the other river towns, that might make them more appealing than us right now, and it is the amount and the different types of businesses here in Ossining. And to my knowledge, there's not a major retail store here in Ossining. What's to differentiate us from another town or village that has one? If you want to talk about a destination to come up to Ossining, I think what we have to do is we have to attract some exciting type of store that already has a name brand recognition. It's like, let's go up to Ossining. They have a Dave & Buster's. Let's go to Ossining. It has an Old Navy. It has a Gap. Small businesses are great, but they're not going to bring in more people as a target destination. However, that does not mean we should forfeit any and all local businesses for the future. That's what entices bigger businesses to come to a place like Ossining. We need those mom and pop shops. We need stores like Bob's Army Navy Store, which has been here for decades. We need stores like Wobble Cafe and Lipton's Market, and even now Basta getting into the mix of things, all where I live and I frequent. In 10 years from now, I still want to be able to afford to live in Ossining as a resident, hopefully with a family of my own, and hopefully being able to go downtown. But we have to make it more accessible. We do that with parking lots, which we both seem to agree on. But I also think another part of my 5-point plan is that we need to create a shuttle service that incorporates both the Arcadian Shopping Center, Croton Avenue, or the Uptown of Ossining, North Island Avenue, as well as downtown Ossining to the train station. And with all of this in mind, in 10 years, Ossining should look fantastic.
Thank you, Mr. Carbonaro. Mr. Carbonaro, business owners and residents alike complain about the high level of taxes in Ossining and Westchester. However, the village taxes account for only 15% of the total of what we pay in our property tax bills. What can you do in your position as village trustee to help moderate the level of taxes for your constituents?
This is an excellent question. It won't just be up to me if elected. It will be up to the entire board working in a bipartisan effort to make this vision happen. All right. I'd probably read about my tax break plan, and you know, revenue has to come somewhere, where you cut spending someplace else. You have to balance the budget, which I know is very hard to do with the limited amount of resources that we have. But I just want to take the next 90 seconds or so to fully explain my tax break plan, which would help the local businesses here in Ossining. Successful businesses in Ossining that turn profits deserve to be rewarded, and new businesses that might want to come to Ossining should have an incentive of coming to Ossining. My plan is, over a 10-year period of time, a business can take a 50% tax break for 1 year, capped at $20,000 a year. So we won't see, some place like Stop and Shop saving 6 figures to spend the money with. Businesses can choose over 2 years, over the 10-year span, a third reduction or 20% over 5 years. Third reduction is capped at $15,000 per year. 80% is capped, the pay is capped at $10,000 a year. With this in mind, they must be able to improve their own capital investments, hiring more people, expanding their stores. Listen, when people say tax breaks, they get nervous, especially during budget season. But we have to do something, and we have to do something cooperatively to ensure that businesses here in Ossining can afford, to repair a parking lot that's in disarray, can be able to afford to hire more local residents to work in their shops. We have to find some way for all this to happen together. And I believe my plan, which, if you look over the 10-year span, at most, one business will be saving 10% of what they're paying over a 10-year spot. Sometimes it's up to 5%. It's not that detrimental to the village.
Thank you, Mr. Carbonaro. Ms. Levin?
Okay. Listen, I've been doing budgets for over 20 years, and that math is, I gotta go on the website, because that's interesting math. I'll tell you what businesses do, because I grew up in a small business environment with my dad, working there every weekend, so I can pay for college. Businesses go out of business, 80% of businesses go out of businesses within the first 2 years. So unless you figure out a way to bring strong businesses here and help them in the beginning, they're not gonna survive to your 10-year plan. Number 2, consumers. Businesses need customers. You can go around and talk about all you want. They need 2 things. They need customers, so it has to be a great place for people to come. They need the commuters who have jobs coming in and they're skipping right over some of our stores. We need to get them into the stores. We need to get them to buy local. What differentiates the river towns is actually the small businesses, not the large chains, because they're too dominant. We have to help businesses. What I've heard the Chamber's doing, which is having an incubator, is a fantastic idea. First time I heard about it tonight. So coming here tonight has already, for me, as both a citizen, a voter, and a trustee, been amazingly helpful to me, because an incubator model is, I'm only sorry I didn't think of it myself, but thank you for sharing that information tonight, is fantastic for this town. There are a lot of people that are looking for that. The cost of starting a business is so astronomical, finding good help, so difficult, that what businesses are going to look for from trustees, from the board, regardless of who's on it, and I hope it's me, but regardless of who's on it, is help with their overhead and getting people into their shops, getting publicity for their shops, and leveraging the strength of chambers, of the trustees, of all of the politicians, working with towns around them to make that happen. That's how people make money, is when people come and visit them over and over again, and they have good and strong employees, which we do have in Ossining, because we've got really educated people. We have a very high education level in this town, so we've got great employees. A problem, by the way, in other parts of New York. So the plan, I think, is to leverage the strength of what we have, and I continue to say that it's all about bringing people here to every store. I like the incubator idea. I want to work on that more. I'm going to steal that from you. when I make my next cards, I'm putting that on there. And I think that the trustees in the village can be amazingly helpful. I worked for MetLife. I worked as a part of something called MetLife Bank. It was an incubator, so I have a lot of experience in how you get grants, how you get private money from corporations, and how you combine that with chambers and other municipalities in order to make incubation successful by leveraging the strength of the many to help the few, which is what businesses want. Lawyers, accountants, how to do tax form, how to hire the right people, what are the laws in negotiating with vendors, who are the PR agencies that can help them. And they can't afford 2 years to look at that. They got a restaurant to run. They've got, an Army-Navy store to run, a florist, and those kind of things. And that, I think, is helpful when trustees actually know it. I'm happy to be a part of trustees where we have Quantel, who's been, I don't see the time. Are you pointing to the time, or you forgot to do it? Oh, okay. Then I'm going to stop, sorry. I was looking and I kept saying, when's it up?
Thank you.
Sorry, I got a little excited there and I was, wow, it's 2 minutes, it doesn't stop, it's great.
And for our last question, Ms. Levin, on November 4th, when we go to the polls, what thoughts will you hold?
November 3rd?
I've been following every. I don't know what that
I just want to make sure I show up on time and the people watching this show up on the right day.
That's sort of like the vote early, vote often. Okay. We'll change the script. On November 3rd, when we go to the polls, what thoughts will you hope are in the minds of the voters and will differentiate you from your opponent and will persuade the electorate to vote for you?
I think the thoughts they're going to have, and somebody said it to me earlier, is I think they want somebody who's experienced, somebody who has the experience of successful projects. Theory is great. We both have tremendous education. We both love the community. We've both been here for more than 20 years. We both love it. We've both done a ton of volunteer work. It's all in our resumes. It's all on our websites. We both love this place. Nobody does this for the money. We're both doing it for the love. And I think what's different is that I have real life experience in bringing projects and doing the marketing that this place really needs. I have the experience of working across various towns and various careers that I can bring to the table, not a year later, not 6 months later, but the day I started on the job, and I'm going to continue with that strength. I also think that people want a team that works well, and a team of Manny and Quantel and Victoria and John are people that have such varied experience, all of whom have been here at least 20 years, all of whom have lived here, average 20 years, because I've lived here a little bit longer, so have others. But certainly they've lived and raised children, etc. So I think that the best part of what people are going to think about is smart, a person that lands first on their feet and can get right into the budget system, a person that can deal with the unions, municipalities, and most importantly, a person that can bring corporate knowledge, commuter experience with commuters, and bring knowledge from other towns on day one right into the foreground. I also have to tell you that one of the pieces is the use of social media, and that is what I've been doing for the past decade, and I think that adds to the portfolio of what people are looking at as somebody that can take us to that next level and really get our name out there. I happen to love all the aspects of Ossining.
Thank you. Mr. Carbonaro, on November 3rd, when we go to the polls, what thoughts will you hope are in the minds of the voters that will differentiate you from your opponent and will persuade the electorate to vote for you?
On November 3rd, as my opponent said, we both have pretty good educational backgrounds. Of course, I'm a bit younger than my opponent here, so my career has only been a couple of semesters of teaching college. However, I believe I've been more involved in this community, that I know more people in this community than my opponent does. Now, I know, just the other day, I was down Snowden Avenue in the Snowden House, answering an alarm at the fire department. I go all across both the town and village of Ossining, meeting people from all different types of backgrounds, meeting people with all different aspirations in life. I feel that Ossining should have somebody from the community that was raised in the community, that was educated in the community, and still is living in the community and volunteers and puts their life on the line for the community on a daily basis to represent them and their interests on the village board. I hope that on November 3rd, people will be asking themselves, wow, who do I choose between? How do I make up my mind? I personally would want to see somebody who gets their hair cut at Gila Barbershop, somebody who goes down for countless evenings at the boathouse, somebody that goes to the mechanic down on Spring and Broad at Lindare Auto. I would like somebody who uses the Highland Dry Cleaners for their own services. I would like somebody whose own doctor's at Open Door Medical Center here on Main Street in Ossining. I would hope that somebody in Ossining would want their community best represented by somebody who has lived in the community, that has knowledge of the community, has interactions on a daily basis with the community. And as far as what I would hope to accomplish, Ms. Levin, with all due respect, your day one started a couple of months ago when you got the position over me for the vacated seat for Omar Herrera. So while you do say you would like to start day one, I can do this, I can do that, your day one started roughly 6 weeks ago, and I would like to see what you've done since and keep your promises if elected to continue your tenure. And I know the Congress was having some difficulties over there. I realize that. Yeah. Well, I just, in respect to the rules, it's 2 minutes. I know my 2 minutes has elapsed at some time, so thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carbonaro. And thank Ms. Levin and Mr. Carbonaro. And next, we would like to call up the candidates for town supervisor. John Perillo, who is running on the Conservative and Reform Party lines, and Dana Levenberg, who is running on the Democrat and Working Families Party lines. Okay, Mr. Perillo, would you please tell us about yourself? What credentials do you bring to the office that you seek? And please include your educational and career achievements, as well as specific skills that will enable you to excel in your position.
Good evening, members of the audience, the people that may be watching this at their home, and of course, thank you, Chamber of Commerce and the Board of Directors. My name is John Perillo. I've been a resident of Ossining for 64 years. I'm third generation of Perillos in this community. What I bring to this community is knowledge, experience, and history. I was humbled and honored over the past 30 years to be elected village trustee in the 80s, school board member in the 90s, and 2001 year mayor. I also served on the planning board, the zoning board, the Board of Architectural Review, the Economic Development Committee at that time. So I am well versed. When I hit the ground on January 1st, I will be very ready to take Ossining to the level that I brought the village of Ossining as mayor. I was educated in Ossining schools, parochial and public. While I was in my tenure of my public life, I've given Ossining a lot of, I believe, good things that you use today. I'll name a few of them. Maple House for senior citizens, Snowden House for affordable housing, Claremont Gardens for affordable housing, Richard Wishney Park, Arthur Jones Park. There are many, many projects that I was directly involved with. When I was on the school board, I supported the addition of the Ossining High School Science Wing, and I took a leadership role in making sure that that building at the time was structurally sound to take a second floor. And I'm glad to see that almost 15 years after I was involved in the first floor addition, that they did put a second floor. That's a vision, because I believe I'm a visionary, and that's what it takes to move Ossining forward. I'll answer all your questions, hopefully throughout the evening.
Thank you, Mr. Perillo. Ms. Levenberg, please tell us about yourself, what credentials you bring to the office that you seek, and please include your education and career achievements as well as specific skills that will enable you to excel in your position.
Thanks, John. First, I'd like to thank the Chamber for giving us this opportunity and the library for hosting this lovely event. And I hope that if there are any further questions, that everybody feel free to also look on my website at danalevenberg.com, or you can email me at levenberg@verizon.net. I just wanted to say that one of the questions that you had asked us up front was what are our qualities and our qualifications. I was born in New Jersey and raised in New Jersey, but I chose to live in Ossining as an adult because I thought it was such a great place to live and to work. I graduated from Brown University with a degree in international relations, and I have private sector experience in television production and commercial production. Since the time that I've had children, I've lived in Ossining, and I've thrown myself into the community. I believe that my qualities are my passion and my drive, my energy, my positive approach, and I'm a problem solver, and my integrity. I also think that my qualifications working at the state level for Assemblywoman Sandy Galef for the last 8 years, currently as Chief of Staff for the last 7, as well as serving on the school board as a volunteer for the last 9 years, have given me an excellent opportunity to learn a lot about economic development and bring the relationships I've built to helping the municipalities such as Ossining. I've worked closely with the Chamber for some of those grants that they're applying for, and I plan to continue to do that. I've started up a not-for-profit, the Ossining Microfund, to serve our community members, and I plan to continue to serve the community in my role as town supervisor. So I hope that you'll support me based on all of that good service I've given to the community and all that I want to give. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Levenberg, what do you believe are the 1 or 2 most difficult issues facing the town over the next 2 years, and how would you plan to address them?
I think that there's a combination of we need to look at our environment as well as our businesses and make sure that we maintain our environment sustainably while also balancing it with development. I know that we have a lot of stock that's currently available we need to fill, and I want to make sure that we do that in a responsible fashion. So I want to make sure that we attract new businesses by building on our historic sites and bringing tourist dollars into the community. I know you're going to ask me a question about Sing Sing Museum later, so I'm not going to talk about that right now, but I will later. And I want to make sure that we also make sure that it's affordable for people to continue to live here. And I want to do that by collaborating with the 2 villages of Briarcliff and Ossining, as well as working with the unincorporated part of the town to collectively brand what we have so we can bring more business into our stock. And also, I want to make sure that when we do bring in businesses, that they take an interest in helping out with our schools, which right now are overcrowded. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Perillo, what do you believe are the 1 or 2 most difficult issues facing the town over the next 2 years, and how would you plan to address them?
Are we talking the town and the village?
Well, the town of Ossining encompasses the village as well, but generally, you know,
Okay. I think the most important immediate thing that our team will do is to stop the reassessment. The present town board and my opponent and her team, they support reassessment. There are over 10,000 properties that have been researched. You've all probably got a memo or a knock on the door. And people say that we're talking about everybody should pay their fair share. I believe everybody that I'm looking at and everybody watching this at home believes they pay their fair share. What does that really mean? Well, I'll tell you what it means to the condominium owners. See, condominium owners are taxed at a commercial rate, which is roughly 50% of a single-family home that is assessed for 100%. So the most important people that are I would say, targeted are the condominium people. So buyer beware with this here. So that's the most important thing. There are over 300 homes for sale in the village of Ossining, over 100 homes for sale in Briarcliff Manor. Now, everybody that I talk to that are realtors, they have the same story. The houses are priced accordingly, but the taxes are too high. Always the taxes are too high. So they invested almost $2 million, and they say it's revenue neutral. Revenue neutral, really? When I hear revenue neutral from the present town board and my opponents, you know what rings a bell in my head? It transcribes to me, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. If you like your insurance company, you can keep your insurance company. And by the way, you're going to get $2,500 back. So when do you think a governmental agency is going to spend almost $2 million and have it revenue neutral? Go on site, look at Scarsdale and other communities that have gone through this process.
Thank you, Mr. Perillo. Mr. Perillo, consolidation of services has been beneficial to the town. Oh, did I miss?
Yeah, you didn't.
Oh. Yes. Consolidation of services has been beneficial to the town. The recreation department, courts, and police have all been combined. What is your view of the path to future consolidation of the town and village? And do you see this process moving forward? If so, what benefits could it provide? If you do not believe it should move forward, why not?
Absolutely. I'm one of the architects in my past presence on village trustee and various positions that started what we called at the time joint ventures, consolidation. So I'm an intermunicipal agreement, so I'm a strong supporter of that. But everybody has to realize before they talk the talk that they need to do their analysis of that, because it all sounds good. You know, people always say, can the village become the town? Can the town become the village? Let's do this, let's do that. The political structure is so complicated that I would need most of the night to explain why it can't be done. However, when I was on mayor, I formed a committee that involved the Village of Briarcliff Manor, the school board, the town of Ossining board, and of course the village board. We had a meeting at the community center to identify things that we could all save money on. Out of that particular meeting, as I recall, we agreed to buy rock salt together, which we all need in the wintertime, aggregate, which is stones and things of that nature, and various things like that that save all municipalities money. But the most important thing, we established a line of communication and a spirit of cooperation. You see, I don't believe that if I was in office, that 1720, that lawsuit would ever happen, because I'm a deal maker. I know how to negotiate. I'm a uniter, not a divider. That was uncalled for. It was a waste of taxpayers' money on the town of Ossining and the village of Briarcliff Manor. So what I'm saying to you briefly is that a lot of flap happens. There are people that talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. So with that, we'll learn more about these subjects hopefully later on.
Thank you, Mr. Perillo. Ms. Levenberg, consolidation of services has been beneficial to the town over the last few years. The recreation department, courts, and police have all been combined. What is your view of the path to future consolidation of the town and village? And do you see this process moving forward? If so, what benefits could it provide? And if you do not believe it should move further, why not?
Number one, I absolutely do think that it benefits everybody in both villages and the town where we are able to collaborate and consolidate wherever it makes sense to do so. Just some quick thoughts about ways that we can move forward. I think that we have an excellent opportunity to look at our planning departments and how they can work together better and possibly share services. I also think one of the things that we looked at some years back was a way to share a grant writer. One of the things that I've been able to do is really bring some economic development opportunities to some of the municipalities in Assemblywoman Gallups, 95th Assembly District, through leveraging my relationships with the Economic Development Council. So how can we bring additional state grants into the town and use that also to figure out what the best way forward is in terms of consolidation and sharing of services, and what things do not make sense to consolidate or share. I do think that there also is a lot of untapped state dollars. There are a lot of untapped state dollars out there that we need to bring here for economic development, and I want to make sure that we do that in the most economically feasible way possible, using our state representatives to help us in that way. And I think that I have established those connections to do that, and I look forward to moving forward.
Thank you, Ms. Levenberg. Our next question, what is your strategy and or plan to develop, promote, and foster business along the North State Road corridor or in other sections of the town?
Well, I think that we have some excellent opportunities already. It's a very wide corridor on North State Road, and one of the things that I would like to make sure is that we can connect it effectively to our waterfront. I want to make sure that we have opportunities to make best use of what I hope to be some positive tourism dollars that will be coming in from the Sing Sing Prison Museum, and making sure when people do come here by train or by ferry that they have an opportunity to not only get to our main streets and the village's business corridor, but also over to North State Road, as well as connecting it to Pleasantville Road in Briarcliff and the other business corridors. I'd love to see a trolley. I know that seems a little bit pie in the sky, but we have had a trolley here in Ossining in the past, and I think that working together we can do so again. I think that there are other opportunities also for connectivity, such as the Uber-like taxi services that are on the horizon with the Upstate Revitalization Initiative. And I'd like to see us more walkable and bikeable, and that's also sort of a wave of the future, looking to New York City and how they've leveraged biking to develop some of their business destinations, and also connect people who work and live there.
Great, thank you. Mr. Perillo, what is your strategy and or plan to develop, promote, and foster business along the North State Road corridor or in other sections of the town?
Well, the first thing I would do is I would have quarterly public informational meetings and listen to where direction that whole community wants to go. In other words, if you look at North State Road, you can compare that maybe to a downtown or a village type atmosphere. What I would suggest is to make it more community friendly, neighborly friendly. I would entertain the thought and get direction from the community of that particular area if they want to get involved with streetscape, sidewalks, lampposts, flowers, and soften it. That area was kind of hodgepodge for many years. I'm glad to see finally that the town board is now have developed a board of architectural review. It's an extension of the planning board. So what that means is that when an applicant comes in front of the planning board, whether it's a building that's already there or new construction, they can determine how that should fit in that particular area. See, I like to take direction from the community. I consider them the engine and the heart. I consider the boards kind of the rudder. We make it happen. Because I know that I don't have all of the answers, and I don't want to impose any of my vision on the community. So with that said, I think that's the direction I would take. Also, you know, North State Road has a lot of potential. The potential is there. I know that there is concern about, you know, how it developed and the neighbors, because there's beautiful homes in that particular area. So to reiterate, I think streetscape, softening it, make it more community friendly and neighborly friendly would be the answer to that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Perillo. You answered parts of this question before, but the tax revaluation reassessment will be completed by February of 2016, and the amount of taxes collected is determined by the town budget and will amount to a zero-sum gain. However, according to Tyler Technologies, there may be winners and losers in this process. And what is your view, and how do you explain this to your constituents?
Well, I'm going to explain it very simply. I'm not for reassessment. So that $2 million will be shelved, okay? And at some point, I'd like to maybe have those quarterly informational meetings to explain everything. But our team will not implement that. You know, I use the word, and it's always around, people don't pay their fair share. There's over 10,000 parcels that were looked at. And I agree with everybody, and even Tyler, that there are some people that don't pay their fair share. And if I exaggerate, let's say it's 1,000 property owners that don't pay their fair share. I'm not willing to drag the other 9,000 in on this. You know why? Because reassessment will happen all the time. Reassessment will happen all the time. It'll happen 30 years from now. This room, if it exists, new people will have the same conversation. You know, I come from an area where my father taught me it's not what a person makes, it's what a person can save. And that's the key here. We don't need more of your money. We need to spend your money more wisely. So I want to reiterate, my opponent stated publicly many times, and her team, I believe, because it is a team, as we are, that they want reassessment. They believe in it, and that's good. We believe differently. So we do not support reassessment. A bipartisan board is needed on every elected office. It works better when there's a difference of opinion on all of the subject matters that come in front of the board. They walk in lockstep. That's why you had debacles like the building of a new police station on North State Road for $4.5 million, and he sold it for $1.5 million. And that was built for 15 police officers. There was more chiefs than Indians in that building, so to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Perillo. Ms. Levenberg, the tax revaluation reassessment will be completed by February 2016. The amount of taxes collected is determined by the town budget and will amount to a zero-sum gain. However, according to Tyler Technologies, there may be winners and losers in this process. What is your view, and how do you explain this to your constituents?
So I think that the whole idea of reassessment is to get more transparency and accuracy into our taxation, and to make sure that everybody knows exactly where they stand with the values of their properties. If I live in a house and right next to my neighbor, and my neighbor has agreed their taxes and has managed to get a lower tax, has effectively gotten their taxes down, and we have both the same value of our house, but they're paying less in taxes, that's just not fair. For somebody who might have developed property and maybe didn't get it fully inspected, and it's not really noticed on the tax rolls, and they're not paying their fair share, the rest of us are paying for that property. So reassessment has a couple of different things, and it's the other really big piece of it that I want you to be aware of is, having been on the school board, I voted for tax tertiary refund after tax tertiary refund, hundreds of thousands of dollars per meeting that were going back to property owners who had grieved their taxes through the process. But not everybody does that. So what happens? Number one, the school district or the municipality has to pay that money now back to the taxpayer, and that comes out of the general budget. Or if you've been smart, you've saved some of the money over the